To understand the gravity of this situation, we must look at what just happened during the object's closest approach to our star. When a natural object falls into the gravity well of the Sun, it is surrendering to physics. It speeds up, it heats up, and it begins to disintegrate. It is a passive victim of solar forces. We expected 3I/ATLAS to follow this script. We positioned the Parker Solar Probe and the Solar Orbiter to capture the spectacular tail of gas that would inevitably erupt as the object's surface ice turned to steam. We were ready to analyze the chemical composition of that tail to learn about the star system it came from. But the universe has a way of humbling us. 3I/ATLAS did not disintegrate. It did not erupt. Instead, as it hit the point of maximum solar intensity, where temperatures soar to thousands of degrees, the object did something impossible for a rock. It accelerated.
Now, I want to be very precise about what I mean by acceleration. Comets often speed up due to outgassing, jets of gas pushing them like a rocket. This is known as non-gravitational acceleration, but for that to happen, there must be mass loss. There must be visible jets. We stared at this object with the most sensitive instruments humanity has ever built, and we saw nothing. No jets, no dust cloud, no coma. 3I/ATLAS gained speed. It pushed against the gravity of the Sun without expelling any visible propellant. In the equations of physics, this is a violation of the conservation of momentum, unless there is a force acting on it that we cannot see. This is the exact signature of a solar sail, a device that harnesses the pressure of light itself to generate thrust. If 3I/ATLAS is a thin, lightweight sheet of highly reflective material, the sunlight bouncing off it would provide exactly the kind of silent, exhaust-free push we just witnessed. This brings us to the second mistake we made. We assumed the object was tumbling. When Oumuamua passed us in 2017, it was tumbling wildly, which suggested it was space junk, a shard of a destroyed planet. We thought 3I/ATLAS was the same, but the radar images returned from the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex paint a different picture. As it approached the Sun, the tumbling stopped. The object stabilized. It oriented itself so that its long axis pointed directly at the star. Nature does not stabilize itself. A tumbling rock in a chaotic gravitational field tumbles faster. It does not lock its orientation unless it has a damping mechanism, a way to absorb and redistribute angular momentum. Seeing an interstellar object stabilize its rotation just as it enters the most dangerous part of its orbit is like watching a leaf fall from a tree and suddenly stop in midair to hover. It implies agency. It implies that the object chose a configuration to survive the heat or perhaps to harvest it. We must also address the silence. For weeks, my colleagues have argued that if this were an alien probe, it would be signaling. We would hear radio waves. We would detect pi being broadcast on the hydrogen line. Because we heard nothing, we assumed it was dead rock. This was a failure of imagination on our part. We are like an uncontacted tribe in the Amazon listening for drums while the modern world communicates with fiber optics and satellites overhead. We assumed that an advanced civilization would use the primitive radio technology we discovered only a century ago. But why would they? If you are a civilization capable of bridging the gap between stars, you do not use radio, which degrades over distance. You use focused optical lasers. You use neutrino beams. You use methods indistinguishable from background noise to a primitive receiver. The fact that 3I/ATLAS is radio silent proves nothing other than our own technological deafness. However, there is one signal we did detect, and it is the piece of evidence that keeps me awake at night. It didn't come from the object's radio transmitter. It came from its interaction with the solar wind. As 3I/ATLAS cut through the Sun's magnetic field, it created a disturbance, a plasma wake, that was far too large for its physical size. Imagine a rowboat moving through water but creating the wake of a battleship. The only way a small object creates a massive magnetic disturbance is if it is generating its own magnetic field. Rocks do not have magnetic shields. Planets do. Active machines do. If 3I/ATLAS is projecting a magnetic bubble around itself, it suggests shielding. It suggests that inside that dark, silent shell, there is something delicate that needs protection from the solar protons bombarding it. We might be looking at the magnetic signature of a containment field. This forces us to reconsider the sentinel hypothesis. We have always wondered if we are alone. We ask, where is everybody? But perhaps they have been here all along, represented by automated probes that drift through the system, check on the progress of life, and report back. If 3I/ATLAS is a sentinel, its behavior at perihelion, the stabilization, the course correction, the shielding, was a scan. It used the sun's gravity to sling itself into a new trajectory that will take it past Earth's orbital plane. It is not just passing through, it is looking, and we, in our arrogance, almost dismissed it as a rock. We were so desperate to fit the data into our standard models that we ignored the glaring anomalies staring us in the face. The skepticism in the scientific community is melting away, replaced by a quiet dread. I have spoken to researchers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory who are frantically rerunning the orbital simulations. They are trying to find a natural explanation for the acceleration, but the math isn't working. To explain the motion of 3I/ATLAS naturally, you have to invent physics that doesn't exist. You have to assume it's made of hydrogen ice, which has never been seen. You have to assume it's a dust bunny with the density of air, which would have been torn apart by the sun. Every natural explanation is becoming more complex and less likely, while the artificial explanation, that this is a manufactured object executing a maneuver, fits the data perfectly. Occam's razor is cutting deep, and it is pointing away from nature. We are standing on the shore of a cosmic ocean, and for the first time, we are realizing that the debris washing up on the sand is not just driftwood, it is plastic, it is processed, it is engineered. 3I/ATLAS is the wake-up call we almost slept through, and the most terrifying part is not that it is here, but that it is already leaving. We have a brief window, a matter of months, to chase it down and confirm the truth. If we let it slip away into the dark, we are not just losing a scientific curiosity, we are losing the answer to the greatest question in human history. The universe has shown us a card, and we have to decide if we are brave enough to turn it over. If we accept the premise that 3I/ATLAS is artificial, we must ask the next logical question. What is its mission? A probe does not cross the immense desert of interstellar space without a purpose. Based on the trajectory maneuvers we have just witnessed, the purpose appears to be reconnaissance. The object did not just skim the sun, it used the sun. It utilized a gravitational slingshot maneuver with a level of precision that implies it possessed a map of our solar system long before it arrived. You cannot randomly fall into a gravity assist that perfectly aligns you with the plane of the planets unless you know exactly where those mass concentrations are. This suggests that 3I/ATLAS is not an explorer. It is a visitor returning to a known coordinate. It suggests that we have been visited before, perhaps millions of years ago, and this machine is simply updating the star charts. This realization leads us to the Tianwen-1 incident. While NASA has been cautious, reports emerging from the analysis of data collected by China's Mars orbiter paint a disturbing picture of the object's capabilities. As 3I/ATLAS moved outbound, passing the orbit of Mars, the Tianwen-1 sensors detected a fluctuation in the background radiation, a rhythm. It was a series of pulses spaced perfectly in time, occurring in the microwave band. In nature, pulsars are the only things that keep time that accurately, but pulsars are giant stars, not small objects. A rhythmic signal from a small object is a hallmark of artificiality. It indicates a clock, it indicates a processor. It implies that after surviving the solar encounter, the object woke up and began transmitting. We may have been listening to the wrong frequencies, expecting a greeting, while the probe was simply sending a status update to a receiver light years away. This brings us to the Kardashev scale, the yardstick we use to measure civilizations. A Type 1 civilization controls the energy of its planet. We are not even there yet. We are Type 0.7. A Type 2 civilization controls the energy of its star. A Type 2 civilization would view the void between stars not as a barrier, but as a road. They would fill the galaxy with millions of these probes, self-replicating machines known as von Neumann probes. These devices would land in a system, mine asteroids for raw materials, build copies of themselves, and move on. If 3I/ATLAS is a von Neumann probe, it explains the metamaterial spectral signature. It explains the silence. It explains the indifference. It is a drone. It doesn't care about us any more than a traffic camera cares about the cars driving past. It is simply recording data. But if it is a self-replicating machine, the danger is not invasion. The danger is resource consumption. If it decides to eat an asteroid belt to build more copies of itself, we could see the industrialization of our solar system by a power we cannot communicate with. The fear that many of my colleagues feel privately, but will not say publicly, is the dark forest theory. This is the idea that the universe is a dark forest filled with silent hunters. If you are a wise civilization, you do not broadcast your location. You stay quiet, you stay dark, because if you shout, you might attract a predator. 3I/ATLAS remained dark and silent until it was deep inside our system. It used a passive propulsion system, light pressure, to avoid generating a heat signature. It behaved exactly like a submarine running silent to avoid sonar. It was stealthy. If this object is a scout for a dark forest predator, then its sudden acceleration and departure is the worst possible news. It means it has seen us. It has verified that this system supports life, that it has liquid water, and that it is inhabited by a noisy, primitive civilization that is just beginning to leak radio waves into the cosmos. It is now rushing back to report the location of a new resource or perhaps a potential threat. However, we must not succumb to paranoia. As a scientist, I must also consider the hopeful alternative. Perhaps the anomalies are an invitation. The object came close. It showed off a technology we are just on the verge of understanding, solar sailing, and then it waited. It gave us a window of time to intercept it. Maybe this is an intelligence test. Advanced civilizations might place artifacts in systems to see if the locals are smart enough to come and get them. It is the cosmic equivalent of the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. If we do not chase it, we fail the test. We prove that we are not curious enough, not advanced enough, or too divided by our petty terrestrial squabbles to be worth contacting. If we let 3I/ATLAS go, we are essentially telling the galaxy, we are not ready, do not bother us. We have the means to pass this test. We have the rockets. We have the trajectory calculations. A mission like Project Lyra proposes launching a high-speed interceptor that could catch 3I/ATLAS by using a Jupiter gravity assist and a powered solar dive. It would be the fastest object humanity has ever built. It would strain our engineering to the breaking point, but the payoff would be infinite. Even a simple flyby, a single photograph of the surface from close range, would settle the debate instantly. If we see rivets, if we see a smooth hull, if we see geometry that nature does not produce, then the history of the human species is divided into two eras: before 3I/ATLAS and after. We would know that the Great Silence is over. We would know that the Star Trek future is possible. But time is the one variable we cannot control. The object is currently moving at a speed that dwarfs our fastest bullets. Every day we debate the budget in Congress. Every day we argue over whether it is a comet or a probe. The object puts another 1,000,000 kilometers between us. The window for a launch is closing. Soon, the orbital geometry will shift, and it will become physically impossible to catch it. We are watching the most important discovery in the history of science sail away into the dark, and we are standing on the dock with our hands in our pockets. Future generations will look back at this moment with disbelief. They will ask, you saw the acceleration, you saw the magnetic pulse, you saw the stabilization, and you did nothing? We were wrong to dismiss 3I/ATLAS as a rock. We were wrong to assume we understand the universe. We were wrong to think we are the only players in the game. The universe is not a dead stage. It is a busy marketplace, and someone just walked through our living room. The data is clear. The physics is undeniable. Something happened at perihelion that shattered our understanding of reality. We have been given a glimpse of a higher science, a physics that can manipulate gravity and light in ways we can only dream of. The question is no longer, are they out there? The question is, when will they be back? And when they return, will we be still arguing about comets? Or will we have grown up enough to meet them among the stars? The choice is ours, but the clock is ticking. 3i/ATLAS is gone, but the lesson it taught us remains. We must look up, we must prepare, because now we know we are not alone.